Hello and welcome on. I'm Streamlight and today I'll be doing something a bit different. I'm going to be doing a tier list based on my playthroughs. So I've always wanted to do like a little tier list. I love watching people do little like tier list videos and stuff, but I never had anything really to sort of, I don't know, do a tier list on. So I figured, well, I'll do something about the channel. So something that there's a lot of is playthroughs. Like see all down here, all the different playthroughs that I've done. Some of them are separated by like DLCs that I've done. Some of them not, like Horizon, I've kept all into one. The main reason I'm doing this is because there's some stuff going on in the background at the moment, most importantly like buying a PlayStation 5, which is sort of, I don't want to sort of start another playthrough after the Nightmare Decay randomizer that I did, because I want to be able to play like a PlayStation 5 game, test it out on the channel, see, make sure everything's recording right and stuff. So this is just like a little, like this is like a good opportunity just to do like a little tier list thing just in the middle of here while that's all going on. So yeah, I thought I'll do this. This is going to be like my opinions, what I think of how the playthroughs went on the channel, how much I liked the game, and so on. And I like to hear at the end, in the comments, if any of the things that I put on here, maybe you would rate a bit differently, maybe you'd rate them higher, maybe you'd rate them lower. I'd love to hear in the comments if there's anything you sort of feel really strongly about, like maybe I put Godelka in like a 7 and you think it should be a 9. I'd like to hear like those sort of thoughts. So okay, so let's start. I've got them mostly in the order of when they were created. I think there's a couple or so that might be in the wrong place. I think The Sims 4 is supposed to be a bit before these two here, but it's close enough. Also, if you're wondering why I'm not using the site that everyone uses, the tier maker, whatever a tier list thingy site, is because apparently there's a rule on there that you can't do personal tier lists on there. Like you can't make a personal tier list, so that sucks. I have to use like this site instead, which is fine because it's very customizable, this site. But I'd have liked to have done it on the other one because everything sort of just snaps into place on the other site. But anyway, all that stuff aside, let's start off with the first playthrough that I did, which is Dead by Daylight. So, Dead by Daylight. So my first playthrough, my commentary is very cringy and lackluster. The game is kind of hard to get into. I feel like to watch if you don't already sort of understand stuff that's going on in the game. And I feel like because obviously it was my first playthrough, I wasn't doing a very good of explaining a lot of the stuff, especially not the first few episodes. So I think Dead by Daylight is going to be a good, sort of like a good 4 out of 10 in terms of, yeah. So 4 out of 10 is lowest I'm going to go for any of the playthroughs. To be fair, just because I don't have enough room, but also because I don't feel like anything that should go below 4. 4 to me is like the lowest score I'll give any of the playthroughs. So I'm going to give Dead by Daylight a 4, and we use that as a good base against anything else that we think about putting that low down. Yeah, so I enjoyed the game, but I know it's not for everyone, and it was my first playthrough, so it's very cringy. So that's going down into a 4. Next is the Resident Evil 1 Remake Randomizer. So I love Resident Evil 1 Remake. The randomizer adds like infinite replayability to it for me. It does suffer from the thing that Dead by Daylight suffers from, though, is that it's like one of the first playthroughs, so my commentary in it is kind of cringy as well. I feel like it's not as bad as Dead by Daylight because I like this one. I feel like I know what I'm talking about more, and so I'm giving sort of better the commentary, but at the same time it is still very early, and so sort of like going back to watch it is probably going to be very like cringy thing to do. And I think for that reason I have to pull it in maybe a 6. Yeah, just because of when I made that playthrough, like when I did that playthrough. If it wasn't for the fact that it was like early on in my YouTube like run, it would be like up here, like 8 or 9s. But because of when I did it, it has to be a 6, I think, for that one. Brutal Doom. This was specifically Hell on Earth map pack as well. So, as I say in Brutal Doom whenever I play it. It is my favourite mod of all time. I feel like the commentary in this is a lot better than these two because I love it so much. You could sort of tell I'm a bit more excited about it, and I know a lot more about what I'm sort of talking about. I really get into the action a bit more in this one. Even though it is still early on, I feel like it's a lot better, and because I love Brutal Doom so much, it has to be high up. I don't know if I'll give it I don't know if I'd give it a 10 because it is still an early thing. I think for now it might go into 9. Maybe. Yeah, I'll put it at 9 for now. I think 10 is going to mostly be saved for those games that really sort of wowed me, I think. So we'll stick you in here for now in a nice solid 9. I feel that's good for Brutal Doom, especially as an early playthrough on the channel. That's a good spot for that one. Sims 4. Now, this is interesting because not a lot of people watched The Sims 4 in comparison to some of the other playthroughs I was doing at the time. Because it's The Sims, it's not everyone's thing. And this was the first of the Sunday playthroughs that I did. It was a very long running series as well. At the time it was like the longest running series I had, I think. And because it was only a Sunday video, it went on for like a while. I think like looking at a lot of these playthroughs, The Sims was going along like through most of them, to be honest. And it was good behind the scenes. It was good because it was the first series that required a lot of editing on my part. It got me to use a lot of like the editing tools. So it was really good for me, like as a learning experience, The Sims 4 as well. And I really like The Sims 4, even if I'm... Well, it's good because it was also like a way of me telling a story as well. When I started introducing Jago Darkstar into it, it can be like a storytelling experience for me as well. Really a way for me to sort of like take The Sims 4 but also put my own little spin on it. And so for that, I think it goes... I'm going to put it in 8 because... Yeah, I'll put it as an 8 because it is a very... No, I'm going to do something very bold. I'm going to put it in a 9 actually because of how much I personally like the game. I know it's very slow. No, I think an 8 because of how it is a very slow game. That's not for everyone. I think maybe an 8 would probably be better. I like the storytelling side that I sort of put into there, and my cringy acting. Now, I think because of what it sort of taught me, I think I need to put it into a 9, actually. That's probably not going to be agreed upon by a lot of people that are sort of like watched through sort of like the earlier playthroughs, but I think personally I'm going to put that as a 9 for me. Lone Wolf. This is an interesting one because there's not a lot of commentary for me to give in this one because a lot of it is reading a book. It did introduce Wolf Buddy to the channel though. That is immediately like up in points. The combat is very interesting, very unique. It's a very good, unique to take on turn-based combat, whereas it's not a case of, oh, it's your turn, attack, command, enemy's turn, attack. Whenever it's your turn, you use up as many actions as you can with like the amount of like stamina, MP, ammunition you have before your like timer runs out and you have to sort of like wait for it to replenish. Along with that though, there are a lot of downsides in the game, like certain bosses or tough enemies you'd go into a fight and you'd die before you could even do anything. It's a very slow game as well because it is reading a lot. So I feel like it has a lot of ups and a lot of downs, both like really good ups, really bad downs. I think it will go into a 7, I think, for me. It tells a really good story as well, I should say. I should point out as well that the story of the game is really good, and I love a good story in the game. But I think the amount of downs and ups sort of fighting each other in the game kind of leave it to like a sort of middle-ish ground for me. Friday Night Funkin'. very short playthrough, only 2 episodes. I really like Friday Night Funkin', both watching and playing. I've only played the main game. I've not played any like the mods or anything. I'm not that good a player at it. The thing that's going to make me rank this kind of low is my cringy singing to the music, and I use singing very loosely in this sense because yeah, I kind of butchered yeah. So I think personally that this is going to go I put this at a 5. Yeah, because I loved the game, but man, I butchered that playthrough by putting my singing voice over it. And also, I feel like I was very late to the party on this one as well. I feel like I wasn't really doing much for that. Cry of Fear. I love Cry of Fear. I've played this game through like maybe 4 times at this point now, and like 3 times prior to playing on the channel, I should say, and got on all like the endings and stuff. It's one of those games that's better the second time round because of like I like understanding the story more. I feel like I'm trying to think of like how my commentary was. There's lots of moments I got scared because I forgot about a lot of like jumps and stuff that happened in this. So I feel like there's a lot of genuine like scared moments and stuff. And also this game has some really scary moments as well, like the ladies in the tunnels, the grudge women in the woods and stuff is really good. I'd personally rate this kind of high, honestly. I'd rate this maybe an 8. Yeah, I'll give this an 8, I think. Yeah, that seems like a nice fair spot for Cry of Fear. Yeah, I don't think it's quite as like, oh, I love it like I do Brutal Doom, or it taught me a lot and was a nice storytelling chance for me to sort of tell a story as The Sims 4. But it was very good. Like, it's a very good game still, and I feel like I did a decent job at playing through it. So I'll put it as an 8. Project Brutality on Doom 2. So this is the same. I feel like I've got to put this in like a same sort of level as Brutal Doom here, because it's just like, I think I even saying it's Brutal Doom but just with like more variety of stuff, like more enemy like types, more weapon types, more like little things you can do. It's just Brutal Doom but with like extra stuff. I think I prefer the original version of the mod more because it's a more straightforward, brutal experience, whereas this kind of likes to throw a lot of stuff and it can be very crazy and overwhelming sometimes. But they're very much the same level to me in terms of my enjoyment, and the commentary is basically the same as in a Brutal Doom base game as well. So I'll rate those as the same for those. Nun Massacre. So I had to put this in because I mean it's Nun Massacre, even though it's just one video. I might come back to Nun Massacre at some point. It has gotten updates and stuff since then which make the game more winnable, like extra lives and such. But man, it's such a... So if anyone doesn't know, Nun Massacre is made by a company called Puppet Combo, and they make terrifying games. Very like dark games as well. So this was like some real visceral fear playing through this, and you can really sort of tell it in my voice as well. I think that I really wanted this game to end like when I was sort of playing it. So I think for that it was a very like real experience in terms of like my commentary and stuff. I am tempted to put it up as a 9, but I'm going to put it as an 8 because it's only a 1 episode thing. I don't really make progress too much in the game. I do kind of show off the stuff, and I like I said, like visceral fear moment and stuff, but in terms of like the playthrough of it wasn't like a amazing sort of thing like these ones. So I'm going to stick it as an 8. I think that's as high as I'll go with Nun Massacre. Inscryption. I'm just going to pop this right up here. just to sort of cement that spot right there, right now. There you go, cool. That's the first number 10 out of 10. So, Inscryption. I remember seeing the demo of this game, and it looked awesome. And I was like, huh, that might be worth a play myself. I won't look up any more of it. And it's a good thing I didn't, because this game is, not only does it feel amazing to play, it gets your brain to think. It's very smart and clever, very like fourth wall breaking as well. But there's so many surprises and like twists that happen in the game that it's like the game just felt like it kept going on and kept surprising me. And I want to sort of go back and play it again. I think like the base game. I've now done the Casey's mod, but just to not only sort of like compare it to Casey's mod in terms of how easy it will be now, but just to re-experience all that stuff again, especially knowing like the story of the game as well. So yeah, that was just that was like a massive. That was the first game on the channel that absolutely wowed me. Inscryption was, so that definitely earns the first spot for 10 out of 10 game on the channel. Amazing masterpiece that game is. I can't even think off the top of my head like a negative thing to say about it at the moment, apart from the fact that it can be like a tricky game at times, or like RNG doesn't favour you, yada yada yada. Apart from that, I can't really think of a bad thing to say about Inscryption. 10 out of 10 game for me. 7 Days to Die. What to say about 7 Days to Die? It's interesting because I played only 7 days of it. That was my goal when I set out to play it. So like play through the 6 days, then survive the Blood Moon day and stuff. I feel like you don't really get a full taste of what 7 Days to Die is in those first 7 days unless you sort of power through a lot of stuff. You know exactly how to do a lot of stuff like really quickly, I guess. So I feel like I don't know. I mean, I like the game a lot, especially single player. It's not like the greatest. Multiplayer is definitely great. Like I played this with my brother a lot, and it's like a blast to play with him, especially as he's very good at building like defensive structures. I feel like I'm there as support a lot of time when I play with him. But in terms of the playthrough, I don't know, there were some good moments, like the showdown on the rooftop of the hospital, the guys in the school, like the scaffolding in the school, in the gym, just like dropping down to like ambush me with theirs, like that cash. There's some like fun moments in it, but I feel like it wasn't like, oh, actually there was the rude merchant as well. He was funny. I liked him. It was a decent playthrough actually when I think about some of the moments that happened in it. It just didn't really seem like it had a big conclusion, especially as I beat the Blood Moon. It kind of just like ended halfway. I think I'll put it as a 7. I think it's got a good spot next to. I'm gonna just move this a bit further in as well because Lone Wolf's a bit longer. I think it sits nicely along with like Lone Wolf in terms of being a nice, decent playthrough. Quake Remaster. So I know this game is good. Don't get me wrong. I know that the problem with this playthrough was mostly a me thing, because I was using like wrong weapon types against certain enemies, etc. But we're judging this based on the playthrough. The playthrough for this I didn't even get to beat it because it annoyed me so much. It was very tedious, and I felt like the game was being very unbalanced, I think is the word I used when I was playing it. And the fact that I couldn't actually beat this game because of it, it can only deserve one spot, unfortunately, for me, and that is down here in the 4 out of 10. I'm sorry, I know there's people that love Quake, but for me personally, it left a bad taste in my mouth when I was playing it, and I feel like it's very obvious in the playthrough that it was kind of pissing me off. So unfortunately that's got to be a 4 out of 10 for me. One Finger Death Punch. This is interesting because I had a lot of fun playing it, but I know watching it is kind of samey, and it's kind of the reasons why I didn't try to like clear the map. I kind of went straight towards the end of the game, like just went to like the shortest path to the end. It was because of watching it's different from playing it, that kind of game. So I had fun. I really liked it, but from a YouTube viewing experience, I know it's not the greatest, and also there's not a lot you can really commentate on it as well. Commentary for this is kind of lacking because I mean, what you say is like, oh, I punched left, I punched right, yada yada. So I think this goes on the same sort of level as maybe Friday Night Funkin', where the game's great, it's just not great for like how it sort of came out, I guess, is a probably good way to sort of word that. Like the viewing experience isn't like maybe the best for it. Yeah, so I feel like a 5 out of 10 maybe for that playthrough. Happy's Humble Burger Barn was a good one. That gave me some genuine like, oh, I'm scared moments. That one moment where I was in the kids' play area and that crawler just jumped me from nowhere without sound. Ooh, that was like on level of Nun Massacre levels of I'm scared now. Story was like out there. I'm still not 100% sure now what exactly they were trying to do with like everything that was going on in this game. I know it was like a big experiment and stuff, but like the story can be a bit confusing. Some interesting twists and like boss encounters. The gameplay was kind of just like a funny rush of like a cooking simulator as well, mixed with like horror. I will say one thing that will bring this down for me personally is it had some very weird, I don't know if to call it features. I don't know if it was like a deliberate choice in terms of like the game design, but whenever you loaded your save, anything you had on you was like erased. And it really sucked, because especially when you had the backpack and you had all the items in there, you'd load up and everything would be gone. Yeah, you'd work a whole day at the diner and get the money, you'd buy all these supplies and stuff, some of which were important to actually progress the story, like glue and stuff. And you'd load in and it's like, oh no, you've got no items in your inventory. You had to sort of like remember to dump stuff off in your room before you quit out of the game, otherwise you would just lose it all, which is technically losing progress. So yeah, I think that has to take it down like a mark or so for me. So I was originally going to put it as a 9, but I think for that weird like design choice slash bug or whatever it actually was, which was kind of annoying, I have to put it as an 8, I think, for me personally. Still a great game if you ignore that stuff, but because that stuff is in there, I have to bring it down a bit. Unpacking. So Unpacking has a lot of stuff going for it to make it really good. It's an amazing chill game. It had the benefit of coming out the first part on Christmas Day, which was very fitting. That was unintentional, by the way, that coming out on Christmas Day, that first episode. It also has the benefit of it being the first video that had face cam for me, which was both nerve-wracking for me to sort of like finally show my face on camera, but also kind of nice. It made the channel feel a bit more complete, I guess. But that stuff aside, it was just a very chill experience. Like, it gave you the opportunity to sort of just talk about random nonsense as well, because it's one of those kind of games where it's just like a nice soothing, putting things here and there. The only downsides I would say about it is that it had moments where I had no idea, and it's purely a me thing, by the way. It's where like there'll be like an item I'll take out of one of the bags, or the boxes I should say, and I'll be like, this looks like a frying pan or something, and it wouldn't be a frying pan, it'd be like another item that went into like the bathroom. And so I was like why is this item in the wrong spot? It's like, oh, this is not a frying pan, it's a thing. But that's purely a me being stupid thing. That's not anything to do with the game. So for me personally, for everything this game sort of does and is, I think I have to put it as a 9. Because it wasn't like a wow moment like an Inscription, but it was a nice solid playthrough on my part. And also another great thing about it. The way it told a story about a girl growing up and like living her life through just the upgrades in her living style and the items that she had sort of accumulated along the way. Like you could tell a lot about her relationships and her friends and stuff just through all the items she was accumulating and the people that she was like moving in with. It was brilliant storytelling. It's just not like a wow moment to get like a 10 out of 10, but one of the better playthroughs I think is Unpacking. Black Mesa. This is interesting. I love Half-Life, and this being like just kind of like a remaster / remake of the first Half-Life is awesome. It kind of felt like it filled in a lot of gaps in the story as well, unless I'm just forgetting certain stuff that happened in the original Half-Life, because it's been a long time since I played it. But it felt like it sort of like tied some loose ends together in terms of the story for me between like Half-Life 1 and 2. One thing that is a bit of a downside to it in terms of it being a playthrough is in the first 3/4 episodes I had a running joke about Gordon having a crowbar, to which particular viewer was very adamant of letting me know that I'm kicking like a dead horse sort of thing of this joke, to which I replied with making a joke out of that. But yeah, I sort of stopped that joke after that, but I think that kind of maybe brings it down like a mark for me, like my cringy commentary through the first sort of parts of the playthrough. Apart from that, amazing recreation of Half-Life 1 in my opinion. I think that deserves an 8, I think. Yeah, I think 8's a good spot for that. Ooh, Total Chaos. This could have had potential to be a wow, I think, if it wasn't for a lot of problems with the game, such as combat being a bit hit and miss sometimes. It is a mod after all of Doom 2, so you gotta take things with like like here and there, but the combat felt a bit hit and miss sometimes. Sometimes you'd feel like a god in combat, and other times you'd feel like you were slapping enemies with like a feather sometimes, like they just didn't care, stuff like that, or like your attacks didn't really seem to do much. Item management was god awful after a certain point. The weight mechanic was brutal. They should have, I think, increased the amount of weight you had or something, because I feel like I wasn't being overly brutal with how much stuff I was carrying on me, but the game liked to keep reminding me that I was over encumbered, even though the amount of space in the bar, like how much blocks of space you had, was like still plenty. It felt like it was very much like I needed to have a more weight capacity. It's one of those things, I think if I played it again, I would know the kind of things I need to have on me, and so the weight wouldn't matter too much, because I think I got kind of over the weight problem near the end of the game. But yeah, because that was the playthrough where a lot of that happening, and that's the thing, a lot of it was, I could have edited it out, I guess, but a lot of it was me trying to manage the item capacity system. It kind of brought it down a bit. The story though is amazing in it. The atmosphere is really good, and again, one of those games where playing it for a second time, the story would be so much more clearer, because you sort of know what exactly is going on. Especially with the whole main characters, like the protagonist and antagonist sort of side of the story. I feel like because of the problems the game has though, I'm gonna have to give it a 7. I think that the problems were a bit too heavy, I think. Yeah, if the problems weren't as big a deal, let me just move this a bit more further in. There you go. If the problems weren't as like big, it'd probably get an 8, but they were very big problems. So, not liking where this is going. There we go. Perfect. So yeah, I think that sort of brings it down a bit for me. Horizon Zero Dawn. This also includes the Frozen Wilds DLC. I kept them together because I played them like right after another, so I feel like it's a bit wrong to sort of split them up. This should, by all rights, be a 10 out of 10 wow, and a lot of you are probably going to watch this and think to yourself, well, yeah, it should be a 10 out of 10. Why aren't you putting a 10 out of 10? Get the pitchforks and the torches and stuff. I'm going to give it a 9. And here's my reason for it. Let me just get this in here. Let me explain myself. Because, yes, this game is amazing. I made the mistake of playing this on PC. My PC couldn't handle this. And for a lot of the playthrough, the game was very stuttery, I should say. It's probably the best way to put that. And also, there was a lot of recording errors that happened. Not recording errors, but yeah, recording errors, audio errors that happened later on in very crucial moments in the story, which made me record one particular segment not just once, but 3 times. The first time the audio didn't record, the second time it just stopped recording, and then the third time I managed to actually record it. And it's the part where, spoilers, it's the part where you go to the hub or whatever it is, where all the big bosses went to hide out, and you see like Elizabeth's like death, like her like sacrificing herself, and also Ted killing all the other people. I had to replay that bit 3 times. Yeah. So stuff like that it's way too much stuff. I feel like there's some other stuff as well, little bits here and there, but it's way too much stuff for me to be giving it a 10. I feel like I need to give it a 9 if I'm being honest with myself. So yeah, in terms of the actual game, it is a 10 out of 10 in my opinion, but as a playthrough I can't give it that, unfortunately. It has to be a 10, which sucks. Final Fantasy VIII Remake or Remaster, the challenge run. So this was the challenge run where I couldn't junction anything onto my stats, my attributes. I could put things on my abilities, but not my actual stats. Or my I don't think I could have done junction attack and junction defenses and stuff as well, like the element and status defense. I don't think I could do those as well. I thought this is really good. Final Fantasy VIII is my favourite Final Fantasy VIII, very close with like 7, because this is my first one that I played. And I love the junction system, as opposed to what a lot of people sort of think about the junction system in this game. I really love it. I feel like this could be a 9, but I feel like I kind of ruined the whole challenge side of it at a certain point when I kind of leveled up a lot of my characters and gave them all the strength boost, HP boost and stuff, and so I wasn't really far off of just having my characters with junction magic on my stats anyway. Like, I was using magic and ability and stuff that I wouldn't have used anyway in the game. The characters kind of had classes, but I feel like I kind of eliminated the point of it being a challenge run at a certain point. I think because of that, like my sort of like deliberate sort of like ruining kind of, because I didn't break any rules in the challenge. I'm going into 8 by the way. I didn't technically break any rules of the challenge, because I didn't junction anything to my magic with my stats at all. It was purely the abilities, but it was kind of like a loophole system that I kind of exploited, and I feel like maybe I should have not done that, and it would have been like a good challenge run throughout the rest of the run. But because of that, it's still a great game. I feel like my playthrough was still pretty decent, so I'm going to give it 8. Stanley Parable. This isn't the new version. This is the old version. I'm yet to play the new version yet. The was it Deluxe version, or whatever it is. Again, one video of this. Did all of it in one go. I love the Stanley Parable. The only problem is I've played it a lot, so I know a lot of the jokes already, so it doesn't kind of hit as funny anymore. Now, I think you'd probably see that in the video as well. Like, I wasn't like laughing my head off at jokes and stuff like that, which is unfortunate. I mean, I feel like I did a good job of showing off all the endings really quickly, for the most part. I just feel like as an experience, it probably could have been a bit more for me personally. So even though I loved the game, as a playthrough, I kind of have to It's going to be a 6 or a 7, I think, for the Stanley Parable. And I'm sort of looking at the games on each list, on each like tier. It might be a 6, I think. I'm thinking about it hard. You know what? No, because I love the game so much, I'm going to give it a 7. Because I still have fun playing it. It's just not as funny anymore. So I'm going to give it a 7. But it's very close. If there was a tier between these two, if there was like a 6.5, it'd probably go in there. Why are you not level? That's bugging me that there's like black pouch above where this thing is. Oh, there you go, that'll do. The Hitman trilogy. Okay, so I had played the first 2 Hitman games prior to this, and the third game was all new to me. So it was a lot of, I already sort of know the story going in for the first 2 games, and the third game was new experience. I love the Hitman games, even though I'm probably not the greatest player. Like, I don't know about all the little finicky, like, clever mechanics you can do with like environmental objects and stuff. I still feel like I still enjoy the game. I feel like I did a pretty decent job at beating the game, even though I made some errors here and there. There was still some really funny moments. Like, if I remember right, there's a moment where I pretended to be a statue, and a guy just like ran around me and didn't even pay any attention if I was looking at him as 47. So it had some good moments, I feel like. Playing those like final levels as well, trying to find out what was happening in the story as well, was really fun. I'm gonna give it an 8, I think. Yeah, I think 8's a good spot for that. It's not it wasn't like a poorish sort of playthrough like some of these were, but it wasn't like a really pretty impressive game like this. I feel like 8's probably a good spot for that. Resident Evil 2 Remake, the first game I played with capture card on the PlayStation 4. I mean, Resident Evil 2 Remake, godlike, like 10 out of 10 game in my opinion, especially on the hardcore difficulty. It's amazing. There was a couple episodes that had audio issues, which has to bring it down at least a point. I have to bring it down at least a point for that. Apart from that, I feel like I did pretty good with this game. I feel like the playthrough is pretty good. The commentary, I believe, it's decent. I feel like I did pretty well, so I might give it. I'll give it a 9, actually. There you go. Yeah, the only sort of bad thing I could really think about in that was the 2 episodes that had the audio issues. So yeah, I think 9's a good spot for that. Nice, good, solid game, and also it was a good test for the capture card stuff on the PlayStation 4. Elden Ring, second game I played on PlayStation 4 for the channel. I think this, apart from in the whole, like the entirety of Inscription and Inscription Cases mod, I think this is the longest running series on the channel. And what to say about Elden Ring? I mean, the game itself is brilliant, don't get me wrong. In terms of the playthrough, it's a little... Some episodes are hits, some episodes are misses, I feel like. Again, there's like a lot of editing here and there that happened here where like death attempts would happen. It was one of those playthroughs as well that required me to, because of it being like a FromSoft game, it was one of those playthroughs that required me to not be able to post it like every other day, like every other sort of like playthrough. I had to not skip certain days, but like move Elden Ring videos ahead a bit and like have other videos take its place, because I was just spending days attempting a boss, for example. So it was really hard to sort of work around Elden Ring in terms of my schedule, instead of like the other way around, like Elden Ring having to fit into my schedule. It was a very weird way of sort of putting it. Wolf Buddies make a nice return in this one. So I think Elden Ring... I'm gonna put Elden Ring in a 9 for now, I think, and I might move it down if I sort of change my mind, but yeah, because of how good the game is, how big it is and all that, how fun it is to sort of play when you're not getting your ass beaten by a boss, I think a 9 is a good spot for that one. The base game of Nightmare of Decay, so this isn't the randomizer that I just did, this is the main game. Amazing masterpiece. I would say it's a WoW like Inscription, if not for some of the combat issues, the main one being your sluggish movements whenever you do anything involving combat, and then the lack of good sprint and sprint bar. Like, your sprint moves you about like 10% faster and the bar lasts like 2 seconds. It's kind of sucky, and whenever you do anything like shoot your gun, especially the shotgun, you move at a snail's pace for about 2 seconds after you do that action, which guarantees you getting hit. It's kind of sucky. I kind of understand why they did it, because it's meant to be a survival horror, not action game, so you should be thinking about when you're fighting and when you're not fighting. But a lot of the enemies are a lot quicker than you, and so you can't really make that choice. I feel like it's not kind of as maneuverable as like the characters in Resident Evil 1 Remake, where you can dodge enemies pretty well. It doesn't have that going for it, and so I think that has to bring it down to a 9 for me. Otherwise that would definitely be a 10, because it has like so many like good touches and like references, like love letter to Resident Evil, Silent Hill, Amnesia, Dark Descent. It's brilliant, but yeah, the combat just the combat's the only thing. Resident Evil 2 Revelations, this game gets a bit of a bad rep because of some of the characters in it, but I actually really like this game. I like Moira as a character. She's like, yeah, she's the teen girl that's like swearing left and right, but like when you know the story, it makes sense why she's like that, because of like Barry being the kind of overprotective father that he is and all that stuff. I love this game. I'm trying to think what kind of downsides there are to this in terms of the playthrough. I mean, I'd already played it multiple times, so things weren't like, ooh, like moments to be like, nothing was like, I wasn't being surprised by things, obviously. Trying to think, is there anything really that I can sort of say about this which is bad? Not particularly. I mean, the game held up really well for me as well. I feel like I gave some decent commentary about it. I think the only thing really about it which is kind of bad is because when I was playing this, I had moments of some days I had lots of time free, other days I didn't. The video lengths are a bit erratic. There's like one episode that's like almost 2 hours long. There's another that's like barely half an hour, if not even half an hour. So I feel like it's a bit crazy in terms of like its watch length. That probably brings it down a little bit in terms of sort of watching the playthrough. I'll give it an 8, because it's not as good a game, especially a Resident Evil game, as Resident Evil 2 Remake was. But I still love it, especially as Barry is one of my favourite characters in the Resident Evil like games, and even Claire is as well. So it's good to see them two in a game together, even if they don't really interact as much. It's good to see them together in a game. Them and Us. Best way to describe it, Resident Evil on a budget, I guess. It's absolutely brilliant. Some of the puzzles I feel like could do a little bit more push in the right direction, because it's very much a case of things in the environment or item descriptions not giving you the right nudge. And I spent a long time scouring the entire map, trying to figure out where things went, what I have to do next. I feel like more clues are needed in this game to help out. Apart from that, nothing else really particularly bad to say about it. I feel like it was very hard to dodge monster attacks and certain boss encounters, like the fast zombie boss, was like a good example of like how do you dodge this damage sort of thing. Apart from that, brilliant game. The story was not overly complicated. It like made sense. It was very mystical. It's like, it wasn't like Resident Evil where it's like, oh, it's scientific. It's a very mystical game, very much like cultist and magic, especially like towards the end. I think Demon Us deserves a good 8 out of 10 in my opinion. Like, for what it is, it's really good, but it just doesn't quite touch some of these other ones, I feel like. Yeah. Inscryption Casey's mod. Now, I'm just gonna do what I did with Inscryption and put this right next to it. I love how Inscryption is the only thing at the moment that's got a 10 out of 10 in terms of playthrough. So, big shout out to Inscryption Casey's mod for getting me like so many views and subscribers on the channel, because damn, people love Inscryption Casey's mod. So yeah, that's a good plus that sort of does there, but also it just continues giving you more of that Inscryption like surprises, and yeah, like discovering that there's new like starting decks, the story sort of like going on about like Casey, like what her whole deal was, Leshy like acknowledging and interacting with your modifiers and stuff like that. It was really good. The only thing about it is that some of the challenges were like a bit hard, but I mean that's the point. It's not meant to be winnable in a sense. Like, I think they make it clear very early on, or Casey makes very clear early on, that the base game is too easy. She wanted to make a mod that was like a lot harder. And knowing the story of the game, you know that Casey doesn't kind of want you to win for obvious reasons, which is to do with the like the Knuffle code and all that stuff. But like, and it's just more of Inscryption. It's the same good feeling, clever thinking gameplay that you need for Inscryption, but in a more challenging situation. 10 out of 10. I can't give it anything else other than 10 out of 10. The only bad thing I can say about Inscryption Casey's mod is it got very hard to make thumbnails and titles for this playthrough, because a lot of the time fancy stuff wouldn't happen, so I had to think of a way to name and thumbnail videos. That's the only bad side about it, which doesn't affect it really in my opinion at all. This is interesting. I wanted to leave this one in, even though it's not technically a playthrough. It is a playthrough for like you, but it's a very good, it's not one of those cases. It's kind of like The Sims 4, where it's my chance to tell a story. So this is, for anyone who's not familiar with this, this is the Doom Dark 94 playthrough. It's like the playlist. This like specifically including the video called Dark and John. So it's like a running story that I've got going on, which is going to continue at some point. I have got plans. I just need to figure out how to do it like appropriately or not correctly or whatever. And it basically follows like evil ego sort of stuff, like, you know, typical YouTuber doing their evil ego thing. But it's just like my attempt at like having a go at it, and I love telling a story. So this is kind of like a fun way of telling a story. And also I feel like the John like choose your own adventure thing's like kind of a fun experience as well. Go back to that and find the secrets and stuff. Or secret, I guess only really one secret to find in that. So in terms of me having fun with Dark and all the work I put into the John video especially, it might seem very egotistical of me to do this, but I'm going to put it as a 10, because it's me doing something that I really love, which is telling a story that I created. So like, I don't care if you think that's being very egotistical of me. It means a lot to me, this particular like playlist of videos, which again, more stuff is coming out of. So like, I don't care if you think less of it. That's my personal take on the Dark playlist. The Quarry, amazing game in the like Supermassive game list. What to say about it? Pretty scary. The monster design's like amazing. Called it early with the whole "it's the werewolf" thing. Movement's kind of sluggish when you're exploring around, but that's just kind of Supermassive's thing. That they kind of lack in the whole like navigating side of the game. It does a good job of doing that thing where you don't know sometimes what the right choice is unless you have prior knowledge of a situation. I feel like the quarry is probably a decent, maybe 8. Yeah, I'll give it an 8, I think. It's not on the line of these ones, so 8 is probably what I'll give it. Yeah, I'll give it an 8. Spider-Man Miles Morales. I mean, amazing game. It's just more of Spider-Man, like PlayStation 4 Spider-Man. I had some weird glitch at the end of the game which ruined a lot of the end cutscenes, which was unfortunate. There's like audio for certain things weren't playing, people weren't speaking, which during the like end game moments was a bit annoying, because you want to hear that stuff for effect and all that. In terms of the actual game, because I played this on the hardest difficulty available from the start as well, I felt like it was a really good challenge. I think Miles Morales did pretty decently on the channel. I'm comfortable enough to say that I think this deserves a 9. There we go. I think that's a good spot for there. I'm realising that I'm not putting a lot of things low down anymore, but I know a lot of playthroughs I've done recently I think are games that I've liked, so yeah, again, it's my opinion. Sims 4 Season 2, The Essential Files. Not as long as the first season, nowhere near as long, but I feel like there was just as much work going into these behind the scenes as well, like in terms of editing and stuff. And also it's a direct follow-up of the first season, so the story that I was telling in that one continues in this one, even more like in your face. It was kind of like a subtle thing at first here, and then sort of built up. This thing just starts off like things are weird. I think it kind of needs to be in the same line as the first season, especially as it concluded that story arc of like the whole weird glitchiness as well. So I think that needs to sort of go on the same level in my opinion. Shadows over Loathing. This started off really amazing, and it could have been something really great if it wasn't for the fact that the last couple chapters or so were very tedious, not that fun, and also it kind of just made me feel like I kind of wanted to rush through the rest of the game, which I kind of did. And I sort of like beat, and I didn't really feel accomplished after it. I kind of felt relieved that it was done, which you don't want in a game or play through it. And I don't like being what's the word I'm looking for? Not mean, frustrated. I don't like being frustrated on when I'm like recording, because nobody wants to see their the person they're watching be like frustrated at a game that you might actually be enjoying. I need to give this a low rank, unfortunately, because of those last things. It needs to go down with like a 5 seems really brutal. I'll give it a 6 because the start of the game was really good and has some really good jokes, and Gabby is amazing as well, I should say. So it has good things going for it. The ending sucked, so I'll give it a 6, unfortunately. Right, okay, there's a couple here that are technically still ongoing, so I'm going to have to base some of these on the playthrough as it is now. So, Banners of Ruin, which is the current Sunday video that goes up. I mean, it's a really good, the art style is amazing, it's fun, it's one of those games where like you get really lucky and not have to think too much about combat, and then there's other ones where like you need to sort of like think ahead really like carefully about it. You can become very powerful really quickly or struggle through like a lot of it. It's one of those games where unfortunately I feel like you need to play it without as much gap as like I'm sort of leaving between it, because a lot of the choices I'm getting are ones that I've gotten before, and if I remembered what they are, it would be beneficial for me moving forward. Because of how long I sort of leave between the episodes, I forget what the things do, and so I don't remember like if they're good or bad. So, but in terms of the actual game itself and like how the playthrough is going, I think it's it's a solid game for sure. Also, all the characters are like super like adorable as well, all the animal characters. I think I'm gonna put it in. I'm gonna give it an 8. I think, because I know it's not the kind of game that everyone will enjoy, because it is very much a think about it sort of game. But yeah, I think that's a good spot. Koudelka. Ooh, I'm so glad I was able to get Koudelka to work on the DuckStation emulator, because I wanted to replay this game so much, and I feel like I had a really fun time playing through this on the channel as well. One of my all-time favourites from back in the PlayStation 1 days. I can't think off the top of my head anything overly negative to say about it, and because it is one of my favourites and still is, I'm going to give this a 10. Yeah, I'm going to give it a 10 actually, just because I feel like nothing can really touch this game for me in terms of making it a bad game. Like the characters are amazing, the voice acting for its time is amazing as well. Combat's quite unique as well, back for the time. The ability to create classes with characters with how you level them up and the gear you equip them with is awesome. The environment and story is just amazing as well. Yeah, everything about Koudelka to me just screams like, yeah, 10 out of 10 for me. The randomizer for Nightmare Decay, which isn't a DLC thing, to point out, is part of the game technically. You get this from beating the game. It's more of Nightmare of Decay, but harder, and in some places kind of tedious if you're very unlucky. I mean, it adds replayability, but unfortunately the path that you go is still stationary, whereas the randomizer for this lets you potentially just avoid certain areas of the game entirely. The only thing that really changes this is enemies and like supplies, which kind of just makes the game a bit more harder. I mean, I'm glad that it's there, but I don't know. I feel like I didn't have as much fun with the randomizer as I did with the base game. So a bit maybe mean, but I'm gonna actually you know what? No, I'm gonna put it on the same level as the base game actually, because you know what? All those problems I was talking about how it being harder and stuff and all that, skill issue. All me entirely. I just need to get good. So I'm going to put it on the same level. I'm glad that there's a randomizer in the game as a base feature. Kudos to the developers for doing that. Parasite Eve 2, the current playthrough that's going on the channel, that's still ongoing. I think as of like recording this, I am on part, I want to say I've just recorded part 10 of the playthrough. So we'll go from like what we've done there. There was the one hiccup with audio in the second part, which sucks. But is it enough to make me not make it a 10 out of 10? Because I love Parasite Eve 2 that much. And I think I very much made it clear how excited I was about playing Parasite Eve 2 with my massive like 10-minute description in the beginning of the game, about like everything in the game. I don't think it does really, so it might have to go beside Koudelka here in the 10 out of 10 row. Just get nice and neatly up there, deserves it. There we go. Close enough. And I think, yeah, I think I'm good with that. I think that's nice and fair. I think the 4 out of 10s deserve to be down there, as well as the 5 out of 10s kind of deserve down there. 6 out of 10s, yeah, I feel like this is all good. So yeah, there you go. That's my personal thoughts on my playthroughs that I've done so far on the channel. Maybe after like another year and a half or so, I'll come back and do another one with the games I've played since like these ones. But yeah, like very interested to know what you think in the comments. Is any of these games here that you strongly feel like personally go in a different rating? I personally think I've done a pretty accurate sort of like depiction of my personal opinions on my playthroughs. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see what you sort of think about these. But for now, I hope you enjoyed this video. Leave a like and a comment. If you haven't already, want to slap the subscribe button. It's totally free and helps the channel grow. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Have a nice day.